Anybody?
Hallelujah. Lord, thank you for your faithfulness to us, God. Lord, we ask that you come into the midst, Holy Spirit, flood this house, God. Lord, release us, release the anointing that resides in us, God. Lord, speak to the needs of this people, the desires of their hearts, the health of the congregation in general. In Jesus' name.
Amen. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, guys. Last week I went to Ohio to visit my sister, and I learned a valuable lesson. Flying is a lot faster than driving. I don't know. The plane was pretty fun. I was actually kind of upset. I thought it would be at least like a 3-hour flight because it's a 12-hour drive. It's an hour and 10 minutes in the airplane, you know. I'm like, this is messed up. Okay, so the last 2 weeks I was here, we talked about light. So that's a very big subject, so we're going to it's all done. If you want to do more about it, I'd be happy to share more later, but we got to continue because this proverb covers a lot of different things. Otherwise, we'd be here I'd be here for months. So we're on 10, Proverbs 13, verse 10. Only by pride cometh contention, but with the well-advised is wisdom. So this one's talking about pride, which is one of the 7 deadly sins, as opposed to the non-deadly ones. Yeah, I always think, like, when people come up with stuff, like, I always wonder, like, when you write a law, like, that's why we don't have laws, right? Because when you write a law, you basically, as soon as you write something down, you basically say that anything but that is okay, right? That's kind of how it works. I mean, when I was a kid, and they're like, there's no running in the hallway. We're like, well, what about jogging? What about speed walking? You know, it's like, you said no running. There's no definite, you know. So it's like when they're writing this, it's like they got to know that someone's going to go, what about are there non-deadly sins? You know, and like, I know what they mean, and it's kind of like taking it apart, but it's just funny to think about. I'm like, I thought it said all sins are, you know. But then when you do that, you get hit by pride. So pride, I thought about this for a while. Pride sometimes is a good thing and sometimes is a bad thing. So I was trying to figure out, in this scripture we know pride's a bad thing, so why do we sometimes think it's a good thing? And the reason why is because in English it has 2 meanings, right? You could take pride in something, that's fine. That means like you did good work, you know, you want to stand behind it. I mean, we've all done something where we were rushed and we're just like, yeah, no returns, like, it's priced accordingly, or yeah, I'll come back and finish that up later, you know. You're not taking pride in that. That was not your best effort. You know, that's not what this is talking about. This isn't talking about like you standing by your work, you willing to put your name on something. That's not what this is talking about. This is talking about pride. And we talked a little bit about this last time I was there, where pride just means, basically at its root form, that it's like self-importance. And a lot of times, almost every single time, it's overrated. It's actually pretty cool. Like, I like some of the things like in the world because like they won't give credit where credit's due. They have to like make up a new thing, right? So there's actually a study on this. I was reading a book about like artificial intelligence, and the person that wrote it actually studied the brain. That's what, they figured you couldn't make artificial intelligence if you don't know how the brain works. So there's something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And basically what it is, it's a basis on which unskilled individuals suffer from the illusion of superiority, mistaking their rating of their ability to be much higher than that is accurate. It is in which unskilled individuals suffer from the illusionary superiority, mistakenly rating their abilities to be much higher than that is accurate. So this is funny, right? And almost automatically as you read that, you have pride in yourself like, I don't fall in this category. Like, what a bunch of idiots. And it's pretty funny because like, after I read this and they talked about the study, in which basically they applied it to chess players, like in a tournament, how if you ask the average person, the people that did not do very well always said that they were, underrated, that they had a bad day, or they said that they were better than what they were. And the people that were actually very good thought they weren't very good. They got lucky, or, they didn't, think of themselves as being the best or in the top tier. And, this is one of those things that just strike home to you, because there's a lot of times where it's just like, I'm better than this. Like, whatever it is, whether it's, okay, I'll just share it. So you're playing a video game, and you get whooped by a 10-year-old boy, telling you how much you suck and whatever, and you're just like, I have a job, like I can't play this game 24, I just had a bet. I'm really ranked much higher than this. This game gave me a terrible rank, and it's just because I'm new. I just got it. I'm really good. You wait. Come back in a couple months, and I'll be able to snipe you from across the map. Well, you don't get better, right? Kid comes back 2 months later, still whoops you, right? So that, that's funny for being a video game, but that happens in real life too, right? One of the things that I like to do, I like to procrastinate. Because I can get things done pretty quickly, so I will wait till the last minute to do something. Sometimes I overestimate my ability to get things done. Like, oh yeah, that'll only take like 10 minutes. 3 days later. What's funny is this is just human nature. It's human nature to think that you're better. Because in your mind, everything is perfect. Even your struggles are laid out in the best case scenario. And there's a lot of times where you're really good at something, but you don't think it because you know that you haven't mastered it yet. But when you do something that other people, they'll be like, that was really good. And you're like, no, it was okay. Like, I just happened to know that. Or I just... Like if you like with Christians, right? You're like talking about like, wow, how did you know about all that scripture? Like, I just happened to read that, a couple of weeks ago. That was the book I was studying. But you don't think of yourself as being the best because you're still learning. Okay. Oops. So some of the things that happen in incompetent people, which I'll show in a minute is all of us, they tend to overestimate their own level of skill. They fail to recognize genuine skill in others. They fail to recognize the extremity of their own inadequacy and recognize and acknowledge their own previous lack of skill as if they're still exposed to training for that skill. This is a tough one. So, there's a saying that people don't want to become, they only want to be. Nobody likes training, for the most part. If you get a new job, the first couple of days of training are fun because you're really doing nothing. You're filling out paperwork, watching some training videos. And the training videos are terrible. At work they got like some kind of driving one, and it is just so cheesy. I'm not even sure what the point of it is, But when you start getting into it and really pushing yourself to actually have goals and achievements, if they're not yours, you really don't take them to heart. Yeah. If your boss wants you to do something and you don't really care, you don't get any more money, there's really no motivation for you to do it other than get fired, you're not going to develop that skill. You'll get right to the edge, you'll push it, but you won't be like, okay, I got this. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to over-exceed. Most people don't. At work, if someone's better than you, you pretty much hate them, especially if it comes easy to them. Right now I'm in EMT class, and for me it's pretty easy because this stuff is like very simple compared to like engineering. It's memorization and that's really it. So for me it comes really, really easy. They can just hand me a test. They're the same exact questions, the tests we've already taken. I've already memorized them. It's, You might get like one or two wrong, but it's no big deal. That tends to tick people off. And because of that, my skills as an EMT aren't real skills. They're not genuine skills. I have skills in taking a test. That's it. So what happens is when things come easy to me and I see people struggle, I kind of think that they're idiots. It's just, I look at it and be like, dude, it's a multiple choice test. We've already had these questions. What's the problem? Or if people fail an open book test, to me, I don't understand that. I remember being in English class, and all you had to do, like English is so easy, you can make stuff up. It doesn't even have to be legit, right? It's all like whatever you want. You can compare, you read a poem and then you have to write about it. I always had the attitude, I'm like, if I could add anything to this poem, I would be a poet. Like, there's nothing more to add. That's why they're done. Like, that's why it's written, But you have to, what did it mean to you? How does it compare? So when it's open book, all you have to do is find a word. I mean, it's a lot like studying the Bible, but you can have more fun with it. So you just find a word and be like, I think this meant that there was aliens. Of course it doesn't mean that, but if you can somehow prove it by linking it with another word, and just have fun with it.
And in today's education, nobody's wrong.
Nobody, yeah. What's bad, I almost called the teacher out on this because it was crazy. My English teacher there, she didn't write with a red pen because she didn't want anyone to feel corrected. Because when she was a kid, she wrote a paper that she really liked, and she gave it to her teacher. It wasn't an assignment, and the teacher wrote on it with red pen, and it just like scarred her or whatever. So because of that, some of her students failed open book tests. Which, again, I don't understand because all you have to do, you just go to the story, find something, and write. Like, it's easy. So what happens is, when I see that, I kind of, you get a little bit of pride because you're like, I could take this test, you guys couldn't. Like, what's the problem, So then any aspect that person could share in any aspect of life, I would completely ignore. Like, you couldn't even pass an open book test. You're going to give me advice on what? But that's what happens. And I remember when I was doing tech support, I had to go out to New York City to help this company. And this guy was a millionaire. Like, he had places all over the place, just straight up millionaire. And I remember like going there, like I wanted to talk with him, like see how, like he must be a genius. Like this guy, New York City, it's hard to make money. This guy started from nothing, I'm like, I'm going to talk to him. So I'm setting his stuff up, and he's having like a tizzy fit because his laptop doesn't work on the train. And I'm like, well, what do you mean it doesn't work on the train? He's like, I want my internet to work on the train. I'm like, okay, well, you got to get like a Verizon card and put it in, and then you'll get access. No, other people don't do that. There's Wi-Fi on the train. No, there's no Wi-Fi on the train. You have to get a Verizon card. Nope, I know that there's Wi-Fi on the train, and you're just being lazy. You can't figure it out. At that point, I'm like, this guy's an idiot. Like, what kind of person thinks there's Wi-Fi on the train? And this is like 2004. This is before Wi-Fi was big. So I'm like, okay. So I never got to sit down and talk with him because I just like, this guy's like a big giant child, wants whatever he wants, doesn't want to hear, reason. I'll do my job and leave. Okay. So there's another thing that's called, I probably will not be able to pronounce it, anosognosia. I'm sure that was not even close. So this is a condition in which a person has a physical disability because of a brain injury, but is unaware and denies the existence of this disability, even dramatic impairments such as blindness. So imagine being so prideful that you don't even know you're blind. That's crazy. Imagine that, like, oh yeah, how many fingers am I holding up? 4? No, I didn't even put my hands up yet. Yes, you did. And I was thinking, I'm like, you're lying to yourself at that point, right? I mean, that's the worst person to lie to is yourself. It's one thing to lie to someone to try to get out of something, but when you've lied to yourself to the point that you believe it, you're in big trouble. So, and I have here, Poor performers do not learn from feedback suggesting need for improvement. You ever get called into your boss's office and they have, what do they call that? It's a disciplinary action, but they have like things that they want you to improve on. You'll sign it because you want to get out of there, but you're like, I already do this. Like, no, you don't. You're in the office because you don't. But we do that. A lot of people do not want to hear suggestions on how to improve. I can tell you right now, if someone comes up to me in this church and is like, hey, Gary, this is how you fix this computer. Thank you. Oh. I'm not going to follow. No, sorry. You don't know what you're talking about. That's been embarrassing because that's happened sometimes. And then later on, I'll be like, oh, I found this cool shortcut. And you're talking to the person that showed you. You're like, oh. No, I just wanted to bring it up again because I just wanted to give credit where credit was due. Yeah. So pride. Pride is not necessarily walking around saying, better than you, better than you, better than you. Nothing that's really evil is ever that blatant. Pride is when you go to the RMV, waiting in the line, I've got better things to do. This is crazy. This government can't put this stupid thing together. We give them money for nothing, but we like to complain. I was in a manager meeting this week at work, and we have a problem where we don't discipline our employees. It's the only place I've ever worked at where people that should be fired don't, or people that get fired get hired back. I actually got called into work yesterday where they fired someone. The guy that was working sees the guy punch in, has paperwork that says he's terminated, calls up the boss like, hey, it says it's terminated. Oh, we were going to terminate him, but he's just going to work on Saturdays. Okay. We got a report that somebody decided to moon a bunch of people. Nothing happened, not even written up. I'm like, we could drop our pants here in the middle of public and that's okay? It must have been real casual Friday, you know? So we're bringing up all these issues in the meeting, and then my boss said something that I didn't even think about. Why aren't these people fired? I'm like, well, it's not I'm the IT guy, you know? Like, are you part of leadership? Yeah. Fire them. Oh, well, I thought that was your job. And pastor says this all the time, but like we don't really think of it. If you see something, why is it someone else's responsibility to do it, right? So pastor says it in a different way, like, oh, we should have whatever, soup kitchen, we should do community outreach. Okay, go for it. Why do you need someone else's approval? You know, we'll say in the meeting, we're like, oh, what there's chain of command, there's blah, blah, blah. Sounds like an excuse, you know? Like, sure, you can make a case for it. Be like, oh, I didn't want to fire them because I didn't want to get in trouble for... How are you going to get in trouble for firing someone for mooning people? You know? Yep. Someone drives an ambulance through a garage door. Nothing happens. Someone drives an ambulance into another ambulance, lies about it, says they just heard a noise while they were driving. Nothing happens. What do? I talk with other managers about how crazy that is that nobody does anything while we're not doing anything. It's almost like I have pride in my ability to see things that need to be done, but somehow have pride in my ability to do anything about it. Pride and arrogance are very closely related. In English, they're very closely related. We know what arrogance is, right? Arrogance isn't positive at all, right? No one's like, wow, that guy had a lot of arrogance. Can't wait to be on his level someday. That's a little different. Yeah, I know what you're saying. That works into the next scripture too, when you're given something but don't work for it. arrogance happens a lot in the church. Obviously, it happens in the world we expect it, right? If someone wasn't arrogant, especially if they were in leadership, you would think something's wrong with them, right? But it happens in the church that we don't even realize. There's some things that we think that we're too good to be involved in, but we don't have any understanding. We think we're too good for sickness, right? But did we do anything to deserve it other than saying that we're a Christian and coming to church? We think we're too good to be involved in any of the affairs of the world, being like homelessness, any of the struggles. We think we're too good for it. And it comes across as arrogance. And for myself, I can only speak for myself, but I'll drive around Springfield and I'll see homeless people. I don't give them money anymore. Don't buy them food, don't do it. Sometimes I won't even look, Turn up the radio, pretend to be on the phone, whatever. Pass the least resistance, whatever, We joke around, other comedians will joke around too. Like, oh, they found a big Sharpie, they should have used that money, Found a good piece of cardboard, They're good. But that has kind of made me cold. Now, there's a lot of scams out there, and I'm not saying that everyone that stands in the corner really needs money or anything like that. We don't know.
Yeah.
But we just loop everyone together, group them all together, thinking like, there's things out there. If they wanted to get help, they could get help.
Yeah.
And that little bit is arrogance, a little. I've read stories where there was a homeless guy. I don't know if you guys heard it. You might have. I think it was like 2 years ago. That he ended up saying something. He had like a great radio voice.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting a job because of his voice. And things like these kind of bother me because it's like there could be skills in people that are just down on their luck. Maybe, they're stuck in depression. Who knows what's going on? And we're at the point where we're so arrogant, we're just like, they brought it upon themselves. If they want help, they'd seek it out. Where it's almost like we don't value them as people anymore. Imagine if everyone did that to you. Looking for a job, trying to apply for a job. Why should I hire you? You don't have a job. Trying to buy a car. Why should I give you money to buy a car? You have a crappy car. Like, you didn't treat what you had good. Why would we give you a new one? Trying to find a place to live. You live with your parents. You live with a friend. You don't have any responsibility for us to give you an apartment or a house.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it works, right?
No.
They look past the circumstances and try to see what your value is. You apply for a job, they try to take a look at your references. Sometimes they'll give you a test. Sometimes they'll give you a trial period to see if you can do what they want you to do. Okay. So going back to this study where people mistakenly rate their abilities much higher than is accurate, I like this part because this is hilarious. This is how the study started. MacArthur Wheeler, a man who robbed 2 banks after covering his face with lemon juice in the mistaken belief that it would prevent his face from being recorded on surveillance cameras. As funny as that is, because we know, that's how sometimes we look to other people. I could tell you from tech support, there's people that look like this to me sometimes, But we laugh at this, but it's easy to understand where he would kind of get that from, right? I don't know if you guys ever did the experiment like in middle school where you write with a Q-tip and lemon and it's invisible, and then when you heat it up, the words show up, right? Doesn't apply to cameras, but I can understand where he might have thought it might have applied to cameras. He thought his skill as a bank robber was greater than it really was. The human brain, the way that it's set up, has this pattern so that all your skills, whether it be reading, operating a motor vehicle, playing chess or tennis, will automatically rate yourself higher than you really are, especially if you're not any good. My boss, the first time I ever rode with him, I'm buckling my seatbelt, says, "Don't worry, I'm a good driver." If that's your opening line, you are not a good driver, right? There's a saying that says, anytime a guy says he's a good guy, he's not a good guy. Like, you don't have to say you're a good guy if you're like, I'm a good guy, don't worry about it. Like,
No matter what you heard.
yeah. Most people think that they're a great driver. I've never really met anyone that's like, I'm a terrible driver, no matter how many accidents they have. They would say, I'm okay. No, I'm all right. I've only hit like 12 people, but I drive every day, so that's a good ratio. Everyone thinks that they're like some kind of Jeff Gordon, NASCAR driver, right? Like, oh yeah, if I can, let me drive to Ohio. I can get us there in 8 hours. Okay. You'll be going 105 most of the way, and then there's traffic, then there's a cop, there's a snowstorm for no reason. You're not getting there in 8 hours. When you think that you're so good at something, and again, just to go over it again, you don't see the skill in others. It's only when you know that you're not good at something that you seek out help, and you actually will study. Like, for instance, if I don't know tennis, I'm not good at tennis, I may go with Nikita, and I'll actually observe and study. Because I'm not going to be mad at him for being better than me. It's already assumed. I'm not going to not learn from him because I think he has nothing to teach me, because I already know he does. That's why I'm here. If I'm playing tennis and Nikita comes up and says, hey, bro, you got to twist your hand like this, bend the knees, get away from me. You go do your knee bending over there. I got this over here. Maybe someday you can show me whatever it is that you learned. I don't want to hear it.
Gary, the word, we're dealing with pride. In the Living Bible, it says pride leads to arguments, but in New American Standard, it's called presumption. Mm-hmm. And that's a sin. The Bible talks about the sin of presumption.
Yep.
And we do presume more than is safe for us to do.
That is absolutely true. And that's the other thing, too. It's with pride. When you think that you know something, and then you slowly start to see you might not know as much as you thought you did, that is a crazy scramble. Especially if that was shown by someone else that actually has more knowledge than you. You're fearful of that person. Not like that they're going to take your life or anything like that, but you're like, I don't want to talk about the subject around them. I don't want to look like an idiot, Right. And the reason for that is because if I were to say something that was just so crazy, that sounded right at first, and then you guys looked it up and like, what's he talking about? You're going to think I'm an idiot. And it probably was at that point if I said it. But there's very little forgiveness in that. At least for me, if I think someone's an idiot until it's like severely proven otherwise. That's like the default. So if I'm driving, anyone that made a mistake, idiot, get off the road, where'd you get your license, idiot, right? You've never been that idiot. I remember one time I was on this rotary over here, or approaching the rotary, and I just went through it, because everyone does. And I remember the guy giving me a look, and I gave him a look like, what do you want, And this all happened in like seconds, and he points at the sign that says yield, that's facing me. And I'm just like, yep, I'm the idiot. No, he was nice about it. He was more like he knew I wasn't going to stop. So he saw this all happening like, here's the idiot. Here he comes. Yep, there's your sign. And it's like, what are you gonna say? Like, please don't be going to the same place. No. But it's we judge people, and that's the thing of like being an EMS, EMT. You'll see people on the worst day, but we judge them on that. Somebody cuts their leg with a chainsaw, idiot. Somebody driving a car in a snowstorm without a seatbelt gets thrown through the windshield, idiot. Okay, so let's get to some scriptures here. Matthew 22. They're talking to Jesus. Which is the greatest commandment of the law? Why do you think they asked him that? They were trying to just pick one, right? Hey, we got all these laws. Let's see if we can get them just to pick one. I would be doing the same thing. Be like, hey, you can't do all these. Which one's the most important? And we all know it's love the God. Love your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and all your mind. It's the first it's the first and the greatest of the commandment. Okay. And then he just continues on. He doesn't wait for them to ask. The second is pretty much the same thing. Love your neighbor as thyself. They weren't asking for that one, right? That's the toughest one. We don't like to do that. I shared with Light where I felt what God showed me was we were all part of one. We got distributed, and we'll only see Jesus come back when we all get put back together. When you start to understand that, you start to understand that when you help someone else, you're helping yourself. We know that a little bit. We know that with family, right? And even in the world, it's like that. You don't want your family name to be disgraced, so you'll help them out. It's not of the same heart, but you have some basic understanding that it's bigger than just you as a person. I think this is the biggest struggle for me personally. Loving God is easy. Love God with all your heart. That's easy. Love your neighbor as yourself. That's easy when it's convenient. Very easy for someone you like. You almost count that up. You almost get a spreadsheet. Things you did good, things you didn't do good, I helped this person with their computer. I helped this old lady. I helped this. I helped this. I helped this. Did you do this? They didn't ask me for it. You saw the need. Yeah, but I got like 4 check boxes over here, so... Right, it's fine. Nobody told me to do it. I mean, I saw that I thought maybe they could have needed some help, but, it wasn't fully brought into my attention, so I'm not counting that one. Do not behave unseemly or seek for yourself. It is not easily provoked, and think no evil. Okay. Let nothing be done through strife or, I don't know what this word means, but it's vain. But in loneliness of mind, let each other esteem be better than themselves. That basically means that you should be thinking about other people way more than you think about yourself. If we were honest, a lot of the things that we have, that whether we hold it as wealth or possessions, we didn't get that by hard work or paying full price for anything. Somebody blessed us with it. But we treat it as if we have this hard knock life where we fought tooth and nail for everything. And that only people that have done the same deserve our help. especially if they're strangers. When you have pride, even if you don't realize it, you're going to be at war with someone that you think is a little bit better or similar, automatically. It's the way it is. At work, I see it happen all the time between two people. A new person comes in that's actually quite competent. People will start telling me how terrible they are at their job. This person is terrible. Did you see what they did? Did you see this? I know you went out and bought lunch. They cheated you out $2, so I'm going to take it out of my pocket and give it to you. Thanks. No, you can keep the $2. I'm not worried. It's fine. Oh, no. We don't want that kind of people here that would shortchange you $2. Okay, that would be between me and them, but I'll take your $2 because you're an idiot. It's automatic. We don't even realize it, right? So, like, I just went to apply for an apartment, and I'm pretty sure there was not a second person that was as qualified as I was. But they're like, oh, this other person can be ready for April 1st, so if you can't, sorry. It's a game. They're basically saying, we want the money now. Okay, fine. I don't want this other person to beat me out. I'll do what you want to do. They use that against you. They'll use the competition against you. You go apply for a job. Oh, we got 6 other candidates. You know, what makes you special? And then they'll be like, oh, you know, can you take a little bit of a pay cut? This other person's willing to do it. There's no other person, you know? It's a game. Or if there is another person, that person's an idiot. That's why unions started before, anyways. Where are we at for time? Ah, man. Okay. So, to wrap this up here, pride is not some crazy thing where you just walk around like you're the man, you know everything, you're the best preacher there ever was, you're the best IT guy there ever was. No, it's not that big. Like everyone would see it. Pride that we need to work on is when you're too busy to help someone. You don't feel people deserve your help. That's never happened, right? Hey, I need your help. I don't really like you. Don't really want you to know where I live. You know. But when you have that, and you don't let it go, you're constantly using your brain to battle that person in fights that don't exist. If I think I'm better than Nikita in tennis, I'm whooping his butt all the time in my head. Bam, didn't see that one. Bam, oh, you fell. Right? There's nothing more vain than battles in your head. I guess that'll set us up for next week where it says, wealth gained by vanity shall be diminished.